Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a seriously extraordinary logbook. We're going to explore the fascinating intersection of deep-sea biology and extreme medical preparedness. Imagine being a first responder, but your ambulance is literally a submarine, and your patients, well, they range from microscopic organisms all the way to creatures the size of a school bus. As you can probably guess, pulling that off requires a very unique blend of rigorous procedure and just wild on-the-fly adaptability. Let's actually kick things off with a quote from Quasi that perfectly sets the stage for us. An octonaut has to be prepared for anything to happen. And it's true, right? When you're a medic operating in the most unpredictable environment on Earth, the ocean, standard protocols often just get thrown out the window. You aren't just dealing with a scraped knee, you are dealing with the chaotic, raw forces of nature. So, to really wrap our heads around what this level of preparation actually looks like, we're going to take a thematic approach today. We'll be taking a deep dive into a series of extreme aquatic case studies pulled directly from the unpredictable, slimy, and mega-sized medical files of the ocean's bravest medic, Peso. We're going to encounter challenges that test the absolute limits of underwater emergency response, and hopefully pick up some lessons in radical problem solving along the way.
All right, let's jump straight into case study 1, the role of a medic. Now, before we look at the wild biological anomalies of the deep ocean, we really have to understand the foundational skills required for the job. Young Pinto's quote here, "I want to learn how to be an octonaut, not a medic," hits the nail on the head regarding a very common misconception. People often think that medicine just isn't an adventure, that being a hero means fighting sea monsters, not wrapping bandages. But as we'll see, in the deep ocean, medical knowledge is quite literally your primary weapon for survival and rescue. To counter that whole misconception, take a look at Peso's actual medical training regimen. It involves mastering a combination bandage, a flipper sling, and a rib wrap. And look, this isn't just busy work. This kind of procedural repetition is absolutely vital, because when a crisis hits, muscle memory has to take over. Unwavering preparation and rigorous practice are the absolute bedrock of effective field medicine. And here's where it gets really cool, because this brilliantly illustrates how those exact skills get used in the field. During one mission, the team encountered a devil oak plant trap. It's this nasty hazard with green arms that grabs on and just never lets go. Inside were trapped baby snails. Now, the solution here wasn't brute force. It was actually medical knowledge. Peso realized the trap was structured just like a giant bandage. So by ordering his team to unwrap it layer by layer from top to bottom, he safely rescued the snails. Talk about an innovative application of a basic bandaging technique to deconstruct an environmental hazard. Moving right along, let's hit case study 2, navigating deep ocean zones. Because look, having the medical chops is really just half the battle. The operating environment itself drastically shifts as you descend. Starting up in the sunlight zone, visibility is perfectly fine. But as you drop downward, you pass through the twilight zone and finally plunge into the midnight zone. And with every single meter, the light just vanishes, which fundamentally alters how a rescue mission has to be conducted. So, the midnight zone. We're talking about a deep, pitch-dark ocean layer where standard rescue operations become significantly more complicated. You can't just casually look around for a patient or a hazard. You're operating in a total void, where survival depends entirely on specialized biological adaptations, both for the creatures actually living down there and the medics trying to navigate it. The crucial point here is that a medic in this zone isn't just fighting injuries. They're navigating unique biological realities. In this extreme darkness, things seem to just vanish into thin air, like ghost pirates. And the creatures that do thrive there, like the giant squid, well, they have massive adaptations. We're talking about utilizing the absolute largest eyes of any creature in the ocean just to be able to see. Treating a patient down here means you have to completely respect and understand these massive biological shifts. Okay, that brings us to case study 3, the snot sea cucumber. This is where things get, well, pretty slimy. It's a highly unusual patient file where slippery biology meets extreme environmental triage. There's this humorous, kind of pedantic debate between the crew over whether it is a standard sea cucumber or a snot sea cucumber. But you know what? That debate actually reveals a crucial biological identifier. Accurate diagnosis is everything, and that single descriptive word completely changes the entire medical approach. And here is exactly why that little distinction matters so much. The snot sea cucumber has a highly evolved biological defense mechanism. It's covered in slippery, slimy snot that's specifically designed to let it escape predators. But here is the massive medical catch-22. A defense mechanism meant to evade capture also makes capturing and treating an injured creature incredibly difficult. I mean, you can't exactly bandage a patient if they keep slipping out of your hands and hiding. Which leads us to a massive operational dilemma. The injured, incredibly slippery patient escapes and gets lost inside the dry octopod base. So put yourself in their shoes for a second. How on earth do you treat a water-breathing patient who is hidden inside a completely dry facility? There is a serious ticking clock here. The marine animal is literally losing its breath while the medics are frantically searching the ceilings for a trail of slime. The answer? Radical adaptability. If you can't bring the snot sea cucumber back to the ocean in time, you have to bring the ocean to the snot sea cucumber. The triage solution was to intentionally flood their own base. It's a totally drastic, large-scale environmental stabilization technique. By flooding the octopod, the medic essentially turned the entire habitat into a massive life support system for a single slippery patient.
All right, let's scale things up for our final section, Case Study 4, Megafauna Diagnostics.
If you thought flooding a base was an extreme solution, the scale of this final challenge is just staggering. Our patient profile is an unidentifiable, moaning creature the size of a school bus. The sheer size of this emergency completely reframes what a physical examination even looks like. When a creature is this massive, you don't just look at it. You occasionally have to diagnose it from the inside out. It's like a giant biological puzzle. You've got this reality check where mapping perceived geological features to biological anatomy reveals the ultimate marine biology plot twist. The team genuinely believed they were exploring a strange underwater cave, but when they mapped what they saw to actual anatomy, well, the truth came out. The red, wiggly cave floor was actually a tongue. Those hanging stalactites, teeth. They weren't in a strange cave at all. They were literally inside the stomach of a massive whale shark. Which sets up, honestly, one of the greatest medical diagnoses ever delivered. Once the medic realized his own friends were trapped inside the megafauna's stomach and causing it pain, he delivered the verdict. You don't have measles or chickenpox, you have Octonauts. It perfectly resolves the mystery of the massive stomachache while injecting a brilliant bit of humor into what is otherwise a pretty terrifying situation. So, looking back at all of this, what's the big takeaway from the logbook? Well, deep-sea medicine isn't just about having the right bandages. It requires a flawless foundation in rigorous procedural training. It demands a deep biological awareness of your environment, whether that's navigating the pitch-black midnight zone or dealing with the slimy defense of a sea cucumber. And above all else, it requires extreme adaptability, the willingness to flood your own ship or diagnose a cave as a mouth. It is literally where preparation meets the ultimate unpredictability of nature. Which leaves us with one final thought. We've talked about bandages, about giant squid eyes, and about massive whale sharks today. But in an ocean absolutely filled with these unpredictable hazards and giant mysteries, is it possible that empathy, just the simple drive to comfort a moaning creature the size of a school bus, is actually the most vital survival tool of all? Definitely something to think about the next time you look out at the deep blue sea. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.